So my idea of Christianity, I believe, is the more authentic one, and I believe that the one most Christians practice today is a little bit faulty. But my whole family is Christian. I came from the church. Jesus is the homie. Jesus is a homie of mine. He's in my courts. Helps me do the readings. I work with the Psalms. I do hoodoo. I mix hoodoo with Solomonic work. So, and that is heavily meshed into the Black church environment and culture. Hoodoo is, believe it or not. But anyways, I just want to look and see what Christianity will look like going into and being in the age of Aquarius, simply because Christianity was prevalent in this recent Piscean age. Pisces, the fish, Jesus, the fish, the two fish symbols that you usually see representing Christianity. That was the Piscean age. I want to see what Christianity, which was born and raised in the Piscean age, will look like in the Aquarian age. I want to see what Christianity, which was born and raised in the Piscean age, will look like in the Aquarian age. Most High Mother and Father God, thank you for this gift. Thank you for YouTube for allowing me to share it, and thank you for all the people that join me on YouTube. Spirit, may I have a message from the oracles for the church, the Christian church, Christianity, moving into the age of Aquarius. What would you like the Christian community, the church as we call it, to know or advice? Or what is a message from the divine for the church going into the age of Aquarius? Believe in the impossible is in reverse. I'm going to pull 3. I was only going to pull 1, but I'm curious. Look at the bigger picture. It's upright. You and your loved ones are safe. It's in reverse. Step out of your comfort zone is in reverse. Okay. Off rip. I'm trying to formulate the message. The beliefs that you have held so dearly to, you're going to have to let go. Because the form of Christianity that you've been given leads to, I don't say destruction. I won't say destruction.
Oppression.
Bondage. That's the word, bondage.
Oppression and bondage is correct.
Some of my clients who have done readings with me and have done channeled messages with me where you've asked me to call up one of your loved ones and get a message from them. And I shared this story with them, and I'll share it with you. I did a reading for a girl one time. I had this guy from New York that I did readings for. He's actually the first person that I ever did a reading for in my life with cards or looking into his chart. Years ago, I practiced on him, and then he just was a loyal client, and I still love him dearly to this day. We haven't spoken in a while, but I keep my eye on him. Little young cat from Brooklyn. Anyways, he referred this girl to me and for a reading, and the reading ended up being 2 hours long. This was before I was even really charging people. I was taking like donations. If you wanted to give me something, that was fine, but I wasn't even charging people because I had this thing about, anyways, it ended up being like a 2 hour reading. We both ended up crying and all of this stuff. But the reason for that was because during the reading, I ended up putting the cards away and doing the reading just off the strength of my pure raw gift. And it was because her grandfather was very present in the reading, and I didn't know that until I kept looking at the candle that I had lit, and it was flickering. And that, when I'm doing a reading and I have a candle lit, a lot of the times I'll do that, especially if I'm talking to one of your loved ones or a departed person, because I can tell by the flame what they're saying or how the energy shifts. And so I got the impression that, so anyways, I ended up talking to her grandfather, and what was being impressed upon me with that, not only was her grandfather there, but my grandparents were present, and they were the reason that this girl even came to me. And I always tell people, when you come to me for readings, I don't believe in coincidences. You're brought to me. Okay? You ask me to reach out to your loved one, and they usually already be there. They're the reason that you come to me. And what I was told by my grandparents was, and by this girl's grandfather was, I didn't know until they told me this, but she confirmed it. But she had been going around getting readings by all these people, and nobody was able to really resonate with her or answer the questions she had or give her the messages she was looking for. And that's when, and she had been to like 5 or 6 different readers throughout 2 or 3 years. And that's when my client, the guy from New York, referred her to me. And so she had been trying to find someone who could contact her grandfather and get a message from him. And I asked her, I was like, was he really into the church? Heavily into the church. She was like, yes, he was a deacon. And I asked her, I described him, and she said that was him. And in my mind, what I saw was her grandfather inside of a church sitting in the pews. And I saw my grandparents, my grandmother, my maternal grandparents sitting in a church in the pews talking to him. And they were telling him, hey, your granddaughter's been trying to reach you. She can't find anybody who can connect to you, but my granddaughter can. So we're going to connect them. And so that's how I was telling her that she ended up with me, as I was getting these messages from both of our grandparents. And then they began telling me, since they had my attention, that they were stuck because she was struggling with whether she should be getting readings and into the spiritual path that she was getting into, because she was raised a Christian and she didn't know how her grandfather who raised her would feel about her doing this. And I was like, honey, your grandfather is the reason you're here. And what they were telling us was that they were stuck in a church. It's like every day they would wake up, say, for instance, you wake up inside of a church, and every day you spend all day trying to get out. You can't get out. Even if the doors are locked, even if you get the door unlocked, you just can't get out of the church. And then at the end of the day, you finally open the door, walk out, and you get to the threshold, and then you wake up, and then you're back inside the church. That's how they described it to me. They are stuck. And even if it's not a literal church, energetically, what they were telling me is that even on the other side, your soul still has things to do. Energy doesn't die. So your body dies, but your soul, your spirit doesn't, because it's energy. It still goes on to evolve and sometimes reincarnate depending on your karmic duties in the past life or your current life. And because of the religion that they passed away in, they really want to evolve on the other side. Their soul wants to go to the next level, learn something new, do something different, but it's stuck. And they also told me that our generation that has kind of left our roots and got back into our root spirituality, we are breaking that bondage for them. So they are encouraging us. I found out how to read these cards. I never thought my whole entire life about a tarot card. Never thought about a tarot card. I've always used my dreams, my vision, and my grandmother was a root worker, but I didn't even find that out until I became an adult and I started having conversations with my mother because they were already Christians by the time I was born. They converted when my mother was like 17. And she began telling me the stories about my grandmother and how she was the community root worker and things like that. I always knew that the gifts ran in my family, but I had no idea that they used to use them like that. And that's why it made sense, my grandmother's relationship with me, because she kept a real close eye on me because I was extremely gifted, but I used to use my gifts in a way that she recognized, and she would try to steer me to use them inside the church, but she knew. But anyways, I found out about these cards in a dream. My maternal grandmother, the Christian woman that she was, and her sisters and her ancestors were sitting at a round table in the sky, in the clouds, like they were the judge, and I was sitting in front of them, and they were flipping through the tarot deck, showing me cards and telling me what they meant. And then they got to the Three of Wands, and then they stopped, and I said, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, we ain't gonna tell you everything. Some things you got to find out for yourself. Ain't that right? And then that's when I woke up from the dream. And then the next day, I went and I bought a deck of tarot cards. And when they arrived, instinctually, I just decided to put them under my pillow when I went to sleep that night and see what happens. And that night I had a dream. And in that dream, in this house that I live in now, I walked out to the end of my driveway, to the road, and I looked to the left, because the left is where the sun sets. Like right to the left of my road, I can watch the sunset. And it's a beautiful view of pastures and cows and stuff like that. And when I looked to the left, the sun was getting ready to set. And I floated off into the sunset, and a voice said to me, I am taking you to the land of the dead, or the realm of the dead. And I floated off into the sunset in the west, the underworld. That is how I came into reading tarot cards. Never thought anything about them before I had that dream. Christians taught me that in my dream. My grandparents died Christians, but they were telling me in this reading with this girl that they encourage us to continue in this path. Don't feel guilty. They are encouraging us and empowering us to continue because we are breaking chains for them. So this message means that it is time, the version of Christianity that we have been given and hold so dearly has kept us from being able to evolve spiritually. And the ones that they tell us are heathens, even Christ said, I'll be honored amongst the heathens. He didn't say amongst my own. He said amongst the heathens, the ones that you all call heathens. Those are the ones that I will be most honored amongst, because we practice what Christ taught, oneness with God, and God being within, the temple of God, the kingdom being within. And everything that they told us was evil, even down to meditation. My mama won't meditate. She won't do yoga, because that is letting the demons in. That version of Christianity that is hyper dogmatic and indoctrinatory has to go.
Had to
because you
go.
and your loved ones are not safe.
It's evil.
I want to get one tarot card for that, and then I'm going to go into a full reading. Spirit, can you give me one tarot card message for the church? The church moving into the age of Aquarius. One card that summarizes this oracle message. I just want a card that summarizes the message that's already out. Especially look at the bigger picture here, guys. It's like, at this point, in the age of information, forget the age of technology, but the age of information, there's no reason to not have evolved past your comfort zone.
I know
Because
it.
step out of your comfort zone was on the bottom. The people who hold so dearly to those religious beliefs that even today that they know don't make sense. They're afraid of what's on the other side.
They're afraid and they attack those who tell them the truth.
Fear, hell, fire, and brimstone. They're afraid of questioning. I was never afraid of questioning.
Me either. I want to know the answer.
Me a concern amongst my elders growing up, especially my uncle who was a pastor. He didn't even want me to read certain things from school, from history books and classes, because, they might be teaching us about other gods and stuff. But I was like, listen, if it don't make sense, listen, if Johnny had 2 apples, Uncle James, and then he ate one, that means he had one left. That doesn't mean that the Lord miraculously gave him, message. We've been lied to. Not only lied to, but this card makes me think of the conquests. By conquest, remember? Not only lied to, but this card makes me think of the conquests. To the church. Think about how you became the prevalent church that you are today. By conquest, remember? Remember the conquests, the witch trials, the missionary trips that spread disease, and to people who had already had native ancestral connections with the divine. They were taught slavery, bondage. This is a message to the church, the King of Swords in reverse. This is my least favorite king to see in reverse because he does the most damage. Like the Christ was for the message that he brought, the Pharisees were the ones, the religious leaders, the pastors, and the priests of his day were the ones that pierced him with the sword, because what did he teach? And this is just saying figuratively that the story of Jesus was real. What did he teach? The prophet of Jesus, what did he teach that they killed him for? Don't they kill every radical leader that preaches a message that is detrimental to the popular dogmatic system, whether it be government or religion? Think about the Vatican. That's who the church is birthed from. I said that to my mother the other day because I like to remind everyone of the facts. Even though there was a Protestant movement that separated from the Roman system, it separated from its parent, which means it emancipated itself because it no longer wanted to practice everything it believed, but it still held its core beliefs because the parent is the one who allows the child still to roam around because it funds its lifestyle. You can do a little bit, but not too much. Think about that. Do you really think that the same ones who invented and run the world could save the world right now if they wanted to from everything? The Vatican, the Roman Church system. Do you think you guys are worshiping the same God? Think about the stories of molestation in our black churches or our regular churches, because I believe it happens in every church. I went to a church that was predominantly white, and the only black people there were my family, because my uncle had an issue with the black church community and he was the pastor. I know these things go on in the Roman church, they go on in our churches, because they're a child from a parent. So my question is, if you are a part of a system that gets its beliefs from its parent, which is the Vatican, is that something that you truly believe is the one true, you know? Do you believe that you really practice a Christian lifestyle, everything that Christ believed? Can you perform miracles yet? Because Christ came so that we could do everything that he did. And he said, so that you should do miracles and even greater
things than he did.
I have. A lot of you guys come to me because I can, because I practice what Christ taught. But to a Christian, I'm a witch. I'm the darkness. You've been lied to. And it's time
For the church to wake up.